Here we go.
What's going on?
Lawrence or Larry? Which you prefer? Larry?
I go by Larry. Yeah.
Larry Kreisel. Kreisel, right?
Kreisel.
Kreisel with Gleam Team, all things exterior cleaning, man. How you doing?
Dude, doing great this morning. Thanks for having me. It's awesome to be in this beautiful space.
Yeah, it is actually a pretty cool space.
It is.
Yeah. Did I tell you how I got into this? And you were asking about whose place this was. And
right.
The funny thing is they're having a B&I meeting right now as we speak. And I was invited to come over here. It's been, since end of February. Do you know Joshua Peterson?
Chiropractic?
Yeah.
Yes,
So
sir.
he called me and asked me, he's like, hey, there's a realtor starting a chapter here. And you just, do you want to go visit and kind of just do a testimony of B&I? And I was like, yeah. So I drove up, and I'd been to this building before because it belongs to a friend of mine, the business, Eric Roberts, and he's got some partners, actually, James, John, and Luis. And so I sit into the B&I meeting. It was it wasn't really a structured meeting because they weren't legit a chapter
not
yet.
like a dynasty or San Antonio
they're not a chapter yet. They're officially, so they're still kind of getting it going. So we do the thing, do my testimony, and then afterwards, John was sitting there, or Luis was sitting there. I was asking for my buddy Eric, see how he was doing, and he's the one. Like I said, I've known forever. I've known him for like 15 years or so. Do you know Eric at all?
I don't. No.
So they're the ones that own the My Insurance guys, and they walked me over to where he was at. I was chatting with him for a good 15 minutes, kind of catching up, and then he's like, "Hey, let me show you around." We just kind of created this studio for podcasts, and literally days prior to coming to this meeting, I had told my wife, I said, man, I feel like I need to do something. Like I need to maybe do a podcast. I don't know what I'm doing.
Awesome.
I have no idea what I'm doing. But days later, I just by happen chance come in because I said yes to a friend or Joshua to come visit. And then they show me this and they're like, why don't you just use it? Anyway, it's just a crazy how it just.
Of course, it's not happen chance, right?
No, and literally as I'm like, okay, well, what's the catches? They're like, no, I mean, they're offering it up for any of their accounts, realtors, whoever wants to use it, which is really cool.
That's awesome.
And they tell me all you got to do is get on this little Calendly app and just kind of reserve your spots. And as I'm leaving that same day to my truck, they send me the text with the link to the app. I get in my truck and I look at it and I push buttons and I go, okay, well, next Wednesday's open. And I push. I'm like, okay, I guess I'm doing it. So I call Nolan and I ask him, hey man, you want to do a podcast? He was like, yeah. And that was it, and just kind of started doing it, man.
That's so good, man.
It's so weird because number one, Joshua not even mentioned me coming over here, I probably wouldn't be doing this. But it is something that I don't believe. I mean, things happen for a reason, but I do feel like this is it's been fun, I mean, sometimes it's challenging, just kind of set aside time to do this, but I really enjoy just kind of sitting across other entrepreneurs, other business owners, and just kind of getting to listen to them and learn. And I don't think there's a wrong way to do it. There's a lot of good, Mark Ebbinger's one that we know that actually's got a good thing going with his podcast. And, so there's definitely people you can learn from, and kind of, I don't want to say aspire to be, because this isn't like I have my business,
Yeah.
So I just, whatever it is,
Right,
whatever happens.
Exactly.
And that's kind of really the whole mindset behind it. So
see what God does with it.
Yeah, man. So it's been good. So speaking of the network, did you go to the Mega Mixer the other day, or?
I made a cameo.
I missed you. There was a lot of people there, actually.
There was a lot. It was a really nice turnout. Of course, connected, co-working, a really great facility. Mm-hmm. It was, I do have Thursday night commitments. I was like, man, I really want to go, but then, I got to be at a certain place at a certain time. So basically I was there for maybe about an hour, just kind of, mingling as much as possible before I absolutely just had to split. So it was good,
pretty good. I my wife and I went. She's not one to like partake in these networking events, but it was cool to kind of get out because a lot of times it's
date night.
Well, that's what it was actually. She got all dressed up and well, the funny story is we were all, and I wore a coat. I never wear coats, and we get there and we start hanging out and we have intentions to go eat at Eddie V's afterwards for dinner. And while we're there, kind of finishing up, kind of chatting and stuff, and my son calls me from home and says, "Hey, the garage door's open and our door to the kitchen to the house is open, and all the dogs are gone." And we were like, "What?" And right now we have 4 dogs at our house because I have my 2 dogs and my 2 sons that are staying with us right now. They all have dogs. And we were like, "Oh, crap." So we just haul ass toward the house, and that became a thing. And then thankfully we found our dogs. But as we were getting home, they call us like, "Oh, we got them all." And we're like, "Okay, do we still go out to date night?" Or we're like, yeah, let's go back.
Still right. There you go.
For sure. But it was really cool to go to the networking thing. There's a lot of people. Power of networking, man. It's just, you get to hook up with people and connect. And I think that's really what I've been trying to focus on doing. I mean, I don't know if you do that.
Yeah, I love doing it as well. Relationships is becoming really big for me. I just really enjoy being around people.
Right.
Really enjoy kind of just collaborating and hearing each other's stories and seeing, okay, how can we help each other out? Because that's really what it's all about,
right?
In the business community. You never know when, you're going to meet someone who's going to be able to open the door for you, or you'll be able to open the door for them.
For sure.
So anything, I know you're the same way. You just like to help people.
Yeah. Well, I think we're actively trying to help people. I think that's the thing. We just, I try to be conscious every day. And I was listening to this podcast that talked about, it might have been a B9 podcast, that talked about competition and co-opetition.
A co-opetition?
Yeah. Which is basically,
collaborating,
partnering with people that maybe are in your industry or, could be somewhat in your lane, but there's always ways to try to, parcel it out. And sometimes there's things that you can't really focus on right now that someone else can. But as you build kind of those networks and, those connections, the big thing is just reciprocation, right? I mean, the more you kind of go out and try to help people, that's the biggest thing.
Yeah, I'm really of the mindset, like, if you're cool with me, I'm cool with you, like I've got the friendly competitors, and then I've got the ones I kind of like just keep an eye on, So, no, but I believe we get a lot farther by collaborating than competing. So we're all, a rising tide raises all the ships,
for sure,
is the saying. So, if there's something that maybe they specialize in a little bit more than us, or a certain area of town, I have Shane with Glow Geeks that he's out more towards Bulverde. So if he gets stuff on my side of town, Alamo Ranchish area, he'll refer it out to me, sometimes vice versa.
Mm-hmm.
Or, lighting. We're not doing lighting anymore. So any of that I send over to Shane. So
talk to me about your business. What do you all specialize in specifically? I know you do exterior cleaning.
Yes.
Gleam Team is the name
of your business. The
Gleam Team
Exterior Cleaning. Yeah. So we obviously exterior cleaning. So that is window cleaning, pressure washing, soft washing, which is basically like, lower pressure wash. So you're letting the chemical do most of the cleaning, and then you're just rinsing down with super low pressure water.
Mm-hmm.
So that's really good on like delicate surfaces like siding or roof tiles, roof shingles.
I've seen some of those pictures, man, of some of the before and afters of the roof tiles.
That makes a difference, man.
Huge. They look like brand new homes.
Almost like new roofs. So we service, of course, residential, and then we're big into the commercial market as well. So we're doing buildings, office buildings, multifamily. So we're doing anything between 2 and 4 stories is kind of our sweet spot. But we pressure washed the frost banks in a roof. That was a cool project.
Oh, wow. Nice.
Great view from up there. You can see for miles, like Tower of America. It's like
awesome.
So just some fun projects, but we really just specialize in really just want to be a blessing to our community through delivering beauty and restoration, like we say.
How long have you been doing this?
13 years.
Really?
Owning Gleam Team, 13 years. Started with my partner. We grew it for the first 10 years together. But working in the industry, it's probably closer to 20 years now.
Wow.
So definitely getting up there, getting older.
So you were working for someone before?
Yeah, I was working for a local company here called the Window Gang. And,
I've heard of them.
Yeah, so franchise company. Different owners, but they're still around. It's a franchise company, so that kind of got me into the franchise idea of like, hey, I want to franchise Gleam Team and become kind of like the number one franchise brand in the space. So that's a few years down the road, but something I definitely got on in the back of my mind.
What made you decide to jump on and open up your own place?
Really more kind of necessity, I would say. Things weren't going the best over there, and I was expecting my third kid at that point. My partner was expecting his third kid. So I was like, we weren't really planning to do it together.
Yeah.
But working together, in the truck one day, I was like, hey, here's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking, about starting out on my own. I think I could do this. And he's like, I've been having a lot of the same thoughts. Mm-hmm. So it's like we prayed about, hey, do we want to partner up? We have, some good competing strength or complementing strengths. Mm-hmm. He's good at some stuff that maybe I'm not the best at, and mm-hmm. vice versa. Mm-hmm. So we prayed about it and we took the plunge. Wow. So that was 2011.
That's so interesting, man. So when my third son was born, that's also when I jumped off and went off on my own. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's something to that because I think in my case, and I've said this before, but I just felt where I was at, there wasn't room for growth and room for me to be able to kind of fulfill my vision as to what I wanted to do. And
so you were working for someone else within that space as well?
I was a partner with my uncle in another flooring company. And we started that when I was 20 years old. I was 20, he was like 32. But I was a small partner. He was like, hey, it's a long story, but he was like, do you want to start this business? Like, yeah, what do I have to lose? I'm 20 years old. And so we had a good run for a good 11, 12 years together and built a pretty good deal. And but it just got to the point where I wasn't growing financially, mm-hmm. Again, the vision I had for what I thought we could do potentially, it was just limited because there's two different personalities and nothing wrong with that. It's just, and my uncle's a great guy and we just had a different, philosophy. So then I just decided to go off on my own, and the best thing I ever did, or one of the best things. It's definitely scary, but you just have to pray about it and just
take the plunge.
That's it, man. I've talked about that many times, and I've always been wired that way, where I just jump in and figure it out. But I just know, like, if it's something that I feel is going to be a good thing, I just do it. We make mistakes, sometimes not all the choices that we make are the best, but then that's how you learn. And
absolutely, yeah. You have definitely made my share of them.
You have to be willing to risk, though, man, and be willing to fail. And sometimes, a lot of that self-doubt comes in the failure, but then you kind of get back up. I've always been of the mindset of just kind of getting back up, and we all are. It's tough for men, I think, for anybody really, just to kind of accept failure and I always try to encourage my kids, even like when it's sports, right? It's like you use the analogy, you play baseball and you miss a grounder or you strike out, dude, just worry about the next one. Don't let that kind of
got to have that short memory.
Yes, and that's same thing with business, man. Same thing with entrepreneurship. Same thing with anything that you're doing. It's just like it's not always going to be roses and butterflies, like they say. You're going to have these, crap days. You're going to have days that you're going to be like, especially in the beginning. That's how it was for me. And
that first summer, man, the first summer in business, we had all these delusions of grandeur, I guess. Like, hey, we're going to do this, direct mail marketing, and it's going to, our schedule's going to be filled to the top, and
we're gonna have so much work.
Exactly. Yeah. And I remember that first summer, man. It's like we had almost no work. We would send out all these mailers and maybe get one or two calls. I remember specifically there was this, we got called out to do an estimate at this really big, really nice house in River Crossing,
mm-hmm.
River Crossing in Spring Branch.
Yep.
So we do the quote, we came in, we wanted to price kind of like for where we wanted to grow to, kind of right off the bat. Mm-hmm. We didn't want to, be undercutting the market and things. We're like, we had this plan to grow and expand. So it's like, we need to have people basically choose us, not for price, mm-hmm. but because of what we're offering as far as quality and value. Right. So we give her the quote, and she's like, yeah, y'all are too high. And so we're like, we're really desperate at this point. So it's like,
we'll cut the price in half.
So we lower the price, and she's like, nah, you're still too high. And then we just lowered it even more, and she still said no. And I was just like, I felt so almost like dirty, I was like, we're not doing that again. I was like, we need to, we'll work with people, we'll give them military discount, senior discount, if it's a big project, people want to feel like they're getting value,
For sure.
getting a good deal. So if it's worth it, but that we just cut it because we were desperate. And I was like, we need to not do that again.
Well, it takes time. It takes time to build up that reputation and build up that value that you offer. I think once you get to that point, that's when you can dictate also who you can work with, who you want to work with. And then
not everybody is your ideal customer, and it's got to be someone who values what you're offering.
For sure.
Yeah. So I remember, that first summer we didn't have, of course, the customer database to lean on. We had no customers basically in our database. So we were like, man, what do we do? I remember being really even depressed that first summer and just having to really just fight through it, just keep getting back up, put one foot in front of the other, make it happen. So
you and your partner leaned on each other a lot, I'm guessing, because that's
definitely.
That's what helps. That's the only thing that I didn't really have, because when I had my wife to lean on, but sometimes, you kind of don't want to, I don't bring stuff to the house, I don't want to give her anything to worry about. And, she, raising our boys, she's got enough on her plate to handle.
So where do you think, what's a good balance with that? Because, that's something that I've wrestled with as well. It's like, you don't want to just come and vomit all your problems or your doubts and fears, right, on your spouse. But at the same time, I think they can kind of tell when something's going on. And so I think sometimes, at least for me, I've found sometimes in lack of communicating almost makes it scarier or almost makes it.
Yeah, because what you don't want is coming home, masking your situation, and then get kind of triggered by little things.
Because they know.
For sure. I think over the years, for sure, she's seen it. She knows too. She knows, she's been through our ups and downs. But I think that's where the importance of having other men to lean on, to kind of just talk to, and
having your support team or your community, your tribe. Absolutely.
That's where I think that comes into play, because as much as I want to be open and honest with my wife, and I am, but it's like I don't need to be. I'll tell her about a bad job maybe, but I don't need to tell her all the details about a situation, or because through experience, I know how this is going to come back around, how we're going to get out of this. Yeah. So I have to learn on my experience, my faith, and then be able to kind of walk myself through that, and share with her, man. This week's been kind of a challenge, struggle, but somewhat
at the same time, as men, we want to be the rock, right?
For sure.
I feel like our wives need us to be, that rock that they can lean on.
Yeah, and
to a degree, but then also it's like,
absolutely.
I've learned a little bit more to kind of communicate and this is tough, but here's how we're getting through it and things like that. So that she's not, because I think in absence of communication, people start to tell themselves stories in their heads, and so I've tried to just be a little bit more proactive with sharing some of the struggles, but not to where it's overwhelming, to where it's like,
for sure,
causing her to stress and get out of sorts. So I want to be that rock, but then also just have open and honest communication. So there's, I think, a healthy balance and tension.
Yeah, it's hard to find that. I think what's helped with us too is as my kids have gotten older, because my boys are my youngest is 17, about to turn 18. My oldest is 23, and I got a 20-year-old also. So now her and I are able to spend a lot more intimate time just talking, going out.
Yeah.
And so there's more communication opportunities there.
Yeah, it definitely changes once the kids get a little older.
For sure. And not that there wasn't that opportunity to communicate back then, but again, when you're having to manage the school, the kids and their activities and all, it's busy, and that alone for my wife, that's a lot on her plate, but the thing is, so she's actually part of my business. She works the back end, does the bookkeeping. So it's not like I can't hide anything from her. She sees numbers, she sees the bank accounts. Yeah. But so it's not like she's not privy to a lot of that. But again, it's just, I think she knows though. She knows that I've always been able to come through and figure stuff out. So I think that's her comfort.
Yes.
The flip side to that is she's my rock also. I can definitely, come home and see her I feel better.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that
totally.
There's
it works both ways.
Yeah, man. Yeah. And I think I try to make sure I let her know that as much as I can. We all have our own love language, and sometimes maybe someone's more affectionate than the other. But she does a lot of serving for me too. Like she does things that I need to appreciate more. Actually, to be honest with you. But we're good.
Same, yeah.
So. But it's good to have that support system. But also, again, just having a community of other men, other entrepreneurs, other business.
That's so important too.
That you can kind of bounce things off of, or just say, hey, man, this is where I'm at. And it's hard for us to be transparent, though. That's and to be vulnerable. That's the challenge. Because I think even as men, as other leaders, you want to be, a beacon of hope for some of the new coming, entrepreneurs that are, like in our networking groups that we're involved in. I see a lot of these newer business owners, and I want to help them and kind of tell them those, like, hey, man, you know what? You're going to have your struggles because I've had them. But just kind of stick with it.
That's where I appreciate, like, when people put they put something on social media that's not just one of their highlight reels.
Yeah.
They share a struggle, or they share, and I think a lot of times we just look at social media and like, oh, that guy's doing so well. That guy's doing so well. Pretty much everybody except me is doing well. You know what I mean? And that's where it can kind of, we got to keep in mind that that's not reality. So, I saw a post. I don't know if you know Doug Mitchell. Do you know Doug Mitchell? He helps build sales teams and stuff here in San Antonio. So he's kind of like a business coach. But he even posted a vulnerable post recently, and I just had to message him. I was like, man, I really appreciate that because everybody kind of wants to put their best, foot, or only put the positive things on social media. And that can be really detrimental, I think, to a lot of us, because we're just, you're scrolling, you're seeing everybody's highlight reel. You're not seeing reality of what's going on. We all struggle. Like, we all have our challenges, and it's really just about, getting with our community, our tribe, like you said, and keeping moving forward and keeping pressing on.
You're absolutely right, though, because I think we should be more vulnerable on social media and transparent as to kind of, if it's a shit day, you know what? Hey, let me tell you about my shit day. But don't tell my wife. No,
right.
But
she won't see it, right?
But because you're right, because I think the problem that, and I'm guilty of this. Like, I start comparing myself with that person or that person, and that's just gonna
comparison is the thief of joy, right?
And the more you kind of do that, the more self-doubt creeps in. The more self-esteem, and so I think the more we can see people be true and vulnerable, and maybe we just need to start doing that ourselves and start talking about kind of the challenges that we're having, just to kind of encourage others.
Yeah, for sure. But, I feel like I've grown a lot in that area the past couple of years.
You've been doing a lot more social media, you said, lately, also for your business.
Trying. Just consistency. It's what we were talking about earlier. I seem to go through spurts of a couple months where I'm consistently posting, and every time do stuff like this or meet with, a networking group or whatever, just getting it out there, to build that network. And
well, when you're on, it's like working out. When you're like on it, you're like, okay, I got to get up today, get to work out again. And then once you kind of just, I'm going to Vegas this weekend, and I haven't been in a while. Well, since February, but I usually go had been going like 5-6 times a year, but needed to take a break this year. But I'm looking forward to going just to take a break. And so my fear, though, is because I've been trying to be consistent with, working out, trying to eat better. And it's like you throw a little curveball like that into the picture, then you get off track, and then you start kind of going back to
So where are you staying?
Cosmopolitan.
Yeah, that's
where we get the hookups there.
Do they have a gym?
They do.
Are you going to work out while you're there?
I guess I am. I actually told my wife that, so we should go work out.
Yeah.
Because she actually goes. I just joined a new gym, too, because I usually have been working out with some friends of mine for the longest time. And we used to be in a CrossFit type community, but it's been...
You're one of those guys, huh?
Well, no. I go at 5 a.m, so I'm a 5 a.m. guy.
You're one of those guys.
But then we kind of, during COVID, a lot of that kind of closed, and it was just different. Then it kind of, then we went, my group went to more of a just like strength training, going to the gym. But I just started to going to a new gym called Iron Fit.
Okay.
And they're in Stone Oak. And I love it, man, because it's the thing with me is like if I go to a gym, I need someone to tell me, hey, do this, do that, do that. If I'm there by myself, like, okay, I guess I'll do this. I'll do bench and throw, do some curls or whatever. But I have no structure. But if someone says, man, this is what you got to do it. Or my weakness is cardio because we're doing a Spartan race at the end of the year. My sons are like, hey, let's do the Spartan race in November. So like, okay, cool. But I need to freaking start getting cardio and start getting losing some weight. Which is hard too as you get older. But so this new gym that we're at, I love it, man, because they just reminds me kind of the old school CrossFit. Not as intense, but it's still. And I think it's important, man. Like working out for me is, and I know you work out too, but it's just to be healthy. It just allows you, especially if you're doing something like what you do. I don't know if you still do the actual work as much, but when you're doing physical work, it's a toil on your body, right? I mean, and you need to be somewhat fit.
Yeah. So let me tell you a story about that. So about a little less than 3 months ago, Josh Sandoval from the YMCA, he joined our BNI group. And about that time, I was thinking about, getting back into working out. Just turned 42 last month. And I wasn't really working out. I wasn't, I've never really been like the type of person to work out in a gym. I would usually do like jujitsu or something like that for kind of to stay moving. But yeah, Josh got in there, and I had been thinking about joining like Anytime Fitness.
Is he a trainer?
He's the executive director actually of the Schnabel YMCA. So yeah, I'm thinking about joining, like Anytime Fitness or something. I was like, I really need to start working out because I'm, getting older, getting a little pudgy, feeling tired all the time, that kind of stuff. And so, it feels counterintuitive, right? Because you're like, well, I'm too tired to work out. I'm too busy to work out, which that was just an excuse that I was telling myself, So I'm thinking about joining Anytime Fitness or something like that. And then my 16-year-old, my oldest daughter, she's like, she wanted to start working out. So I was like, okay, by the time, we get 2 memberships, for Anytime Fitness, I was like, we could probably get a family membership at the YMCA. So yeah, it's like $99, I think, a month. You can get a whole family membership at the YMCA. So just decided to just go for it, and so we're doing Monday, Wednesday, Friday. We're doing family gym night. So we're spending more time together as a family.
That's cool.
Yeah, but then we're also, working out and getting healthier, strengthening our bodies. And in 3 months, less than 3 months, probably lost about 15 to 20 pounds. Really? Yeah.
Have you worked on your diet? I mean, your intake as far as food and stuff? Because that's the hard part.
I was kind of. So it's like February of last year. I had gotten up to my heaviest, which was like 250 pounds.
What?
Yeah. And I was having during that time, I was also under a lot of stress at work, and I was starting to feel like chest pressure and things like that, high blood pressure. So I went to the doctor, and when how they weigh you when you go in there.
That's the most embarrassing thing. I'm always like, can I take out my boots real quick? Right. I'm emptying all my pockets.
My keys out.
And I don't trust those damn scales with the little weights on it. I'd rather use the digital ones at home.
Yeah, so I was like, y'all scale is broken. So I was pretty shocked because that was a rapid weight gain. I mean, that was probably 20 pounds within a couple of months that I had gained. So that kind of got me on. I do a lot of keto whenever I do need to lose weight. That's works really well for me, is that ketogenic. So I've been doing that. So as I'm working out, I'm being pretty disciplined with the keto. So they go hand in hand. But I think just that discipline goes hand in hand and translates over into pretty much every area of life, right? Once you get consistent working out and you start being healthy in that and disciplined in that area, it spills over into your diet. It spills over into your work life, and even into your family. So for me, that was kind of a catalyst to start getting consistent and disciplined in a lot of different areas.
For sure. So you feel good, and so then it makes you want to do things that are good.
Yeah, and you have the energy to do it, right?
And,
you know, you're not constantly just tired all the time.
Well, for me, it also helps with on the spiritual side of it too, because you're creating good discipline. Like I said, I wake up early in the mornings and work out, and then I started. We got involved with the Bible study men's group in February, and then started spending a little more quiet time in the mornings. You know, reading, studying scripture, but. Mainly because I was being more consistent with working out, waking up. So now get back from the gym. At 6 o'clock, you still have time, spend 30 minutes, 40 minutes, whatever, kind of read, journal, take notes. So as opposed to the flip side of just you're waking up late, kind of just.
You're in a rush already. You're running behind.
Your days kind of just feel like you're behind one step all day. And so there's definitely a benefit to being active and trying to be healthy. And it's hard for sure as you get older. Yeah. The food part for me is my biggest weakness, man. I was like, and I try to say, well, I balanced it out by working out, and that's why I work out so I can eat chocolate bars.
I can't tell you how many times I've heard that.
I'm so weak.
You work out for gains. That's what you work out for. But but it started with that. So after a little bit of working out, maybe a month consistently, I'm like, okay, I never really consider myself a morning person, but I'm like, hey, I'm gonna try getting up at the same time every day. 7 days a week, just so my body knows what to expect. So I started getting up. I can't say at the same time, but between 5 and 5:30, whether it's a weekday, weekend, or whatever. And you're right, just having that time to connect with God, to journal journal your thoughts, to pray, and then starting the day that way. One thing I do when I journal, I think I told you this when we met before at Merit Coffee, is just starting my journaling with just 3 things I'm grateful for. And that just puts you in that mindset of, you're looking for things to be grateful for instead of focusing on, hey, what's going wrong or what do I lack? And then that, I'm not going to call it the law of attraction or whatever, just but
perspective.
I don't want to get all new agey, but just having, when you're open and looking for gratitude, like more things, you find more things because it's what you're looking for. If you buy a red Honda Odyssey, what do you see the next day? Every red Honda Odyssey, right? That's going down the street because that's what your brain is trained to look for. So when you're trained to be grateful and to look for opportunities, what do you see all around you? More opportunities.
Makes sense. That's good. Do you you mentioned jujitsu? Is that still something you still do?
I wish I have. That's probably going to be the next thing that I try to get back into.
I've always wanted to try it. But my problem too is just kind of partially out the time to do all this different stuff. But that's something that I tried to encourage my kids when they were young to do, which they didn't. Now they're kind of getting into the Muay Thai, and they're older now, of course. And boxing, and which is cool. There's different disciplines that helps give you some little bit of structure. And just my middle son's doing the boxing right now. My oldest son was doing the Muay Thai, and it's funny because I went. He's like, let's go try the Muay Thai. And have you ever done Muay Thai?
I have not.
And so it's just a different art, right? And I'm kind of new to this thing, and everyone's got pads and shin guards. A lot of it's kind of using your legs to block. And so they were kind of showing me a real quick 10-minute intro as to kind of what they focus on, And so then we spar. I actually spar with my son, and they're trying to.
How was that?
Oh, it sucked. Well, first of all, I didn't have any pads or knee or shin guards or anything, and everyone's got them, right? And so I was just gonna go. I'm just there to support, hang out. I'll try it out, whatever. And the instructor was like, okay, so, we're going to practice this punch, that punch. And then, one person A is going to do it. Person B is going to defend. And you got to use your legs, pick up your knees and block, blah, blah, blah. Okay, cool. So we start, and I'm doing the old Karate Kid, wipe down, wax on, wax off. Using no. You got to use your shins. You got to use your legs. So, man, I got hit so many times on my shin. I was like, it was a pain, and I told myself, nah, I'm not doing this anymore. But it was kind of cool though, because it's just a different discipline, right? And it's same thing with jiu-jitsu. It's I think it's kind of cool to learn those, and I mean, it's also good to, I mean, like self-defense is obviously a reason behind it too. You know, when the kids
just builds confidence too.
Builds
like
confidence.
Knowing that you can choke out 95% of the population if you wanted to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think, you know, you have a huge advantage as opposed to just a straight up street fight. You know, if you can just put your opponent down, pin him down real quick, and, you know, take advantage.
It's the gentle art. Right?
Yeah.
You can put them to sleep without hurting them. You don't gotta, you know. But back to the working out thing, I calculated out, you know, I was putting, you know, 3 nights a week, maybe an hour working out for an hour. And I calculated it's probably like investing maybe 2 to 3% of your time in your health and fitness. So it kind of I don't say bothers me, but it's like when someone says they don't have time to work out, I mean, your health, how much is your health and your, you know, fitness worth? It's not worth 2% of your time. You know, we make time for things that are a priority.
Right.
And it's like, if you can't invest 2 or 3% of your time in your health and fitness, and then not only is it going to benefit you in adding years to your life, probably, you know, increase energy, all these things. It's like, you know, I don't know. It just doesn't make sense to me. Like we, you know, probably spend more time scrolling on social media
for sure
than 2 to 3%. But like the physical fitness, I feel like, and it's just, you know, this is me over the last 3 months realizing is a catalyst for almost every area of life.
Much better. I mean, you live a better life, and it just kind of trickles down to everything around you.
Setting an example for your kids.
How many kids do you have?
5.
What, your oldest is 16?
Yeah, so I have a 16-year-old, 14-year-old girl, boy, and then 16, 14, one that's going to be turning 13 next week, and then a 11-year-old girl and a 9-year-old boy.
Well, just having 5 kids, you need to have energy.
You need to have energy, yeah, you need to have energy for sure.
I've always been somewhat active. One of the reasons was because I had 3 boys, and when they were younger, they play baseball, sports, and I'd always be on the field with them, practicing, taking them to the park, and so that was important to me because I didn't want to be that dad that couldn't do that with them, where you couldn't go even just play catch or play, you know, flag football or a game or whatever. So for me, that was one of the biggest reasons is to be able to do stuff with them and then help coach them and stuff. Yeah. YMCA, man, that's where we kind of started off.
Yeah, that's a great organization.
Well, it was cool because my son was maybe 4 when he started doing soccer there, and then graduated, evolved into like T-ball and all that. But that's where we got our Schnabel also. That's where we were at. By the way, if
anyone watching, if you're thinking about joining the YMCA, use me as a referral so I can get my discount.
And then, so your buddy, what's his name? That's
Joshua Sandoval.
Okay, so you joined your BNI group?
He did. Yeah.
So what's his goal there? Just to kind of grow the YMCA there, to get more members, or what?
Get more members, like
does he do any fitness training at all, or no?
Collaborate?
Or is it more on the business side?
I think it's more. I mean, he's the executive director so he's got a lot of responsibilities. He's in shape though, I'll say that. But
that's good.
Yeah,
I think that'd be a good thing.
Yeah, wouldn't be good if he was 300 pounds. But but yeah, he you know, kind of collaborating with other nonprofits and just kind of you know, really just their community involvement. You know, they have, you know, back to school days that they do for the kids. They have something around Halloween. So they do a lot with the community and just kind of, I guess, networking and meeting other community leaders or businesses that are community minded, you know, that are looking to give back. And then of course, like sponsorships and things like that, you know, because it is a nonprofit. So they do depend on donations. And one thing that they don't do is they don't turn away anybody for their inability to pay, which I didn't even know that when I joined. You know, it's like that to me. That's pretty special because they're recognizing, hey, the value of health and the value of fitness, and it's like they're making that available to people even if they fall on hard times and they're not able to pay for a while. You know, they believe that by providing that opportunity, that it's gonna come back either they'll get to a point where they can, and then maybe they'll, pay extra or they'll donate.
Isn't that how the Y started? It was a community for people to go to, like after school and stuff.
I'm not too sure.
Be a part of.
I'm not too sure how it started. I know it's Young Men's Christian Association, I think is what it stands for. So it's a Christian organization.
Yeah. And I think that's what it was. It was just to have a community for kids to be a part of, especially after school.
Yeah.
And be active and kind of just not.
That'd be interesting to research. And put Josh on the spot and ask him.
As you've evolved in your business, do you all try to get involved with your community also?
Absolutely.
Business?
Yeah, absolutely. So our core focus is to be a blessing to the community by delivering beauty and restoration. So for us, that might mean, beauty is just making people's spaces look amazing, their exterior, making their houses look good, restoring the joy, the pride and joy of home ownership, or keeping buildings and commercial properties looking nice for people that are coming in and out of the building. Kind of to a degree, maybe even restoring lives. I know it sounds a little weird, but if we can, some of our customers, they're maybe elderly and they don't get to get out much. So they want to talk, when they're working, and by kind of engaging with that and taking a moment to kind of slow down. Of course, we still have a job to do, but we try to train our guys like, hey, if they're wanting to talk, it's probably because they're lonely.
For sure.
It's probably because they don't get out much. And if we could be a listening ear, we can maybe encourage someone, or you never know what people are going through.
Yep.
So just trying to be kind and have grace for everybody.
My guests last week, they were the founders of King's Compassion, and their focus in their ministry is to cater to the elderly, actually. So Robert, it's Rose and Robert Reyes. Robert, actually, they've had this ministry since 2011, I think. But they'll provide food, groceries, and stuff. But one of the things they also do is they actually go and they clean the yards. They'll do, they'll paint the homes and they'll kind of clean them up, because there's something to be said to having a good, clean environment around you. Because it gives you kind of, and then, again, they're elderly, so they can't do it themselves. So, and it gives you a sense of pride also when you have, a home that's looks nice and it's not the rundown, house on the block. And,
I definitely need to hook up with them too. Another, I think I told you about it previously, but are you familiar with James 1:27? So it's true religion and undefiled is to take care of the widows and the fatherless in their distress and to remain unspotted from the world. And so I kind of took that. I was like, well, how can we apply that to exterior cleaning? Well, I mean, that's what we're good at, right? That's what we do. So if we can bless a widow or a widower, or help support foster families, maybe just by cleaning their windows, by doing some work at their house, cleaning their driveway. We try to do that about once a month, just as a free service, because there are some, they're on a fixed income. They want to get the work done. They can't necessarily afford it. So if we come across that, sometimes we'll be like, you know what, like this is on us. And just to see the reactions and they really feel seen, and that, man, like awesome that a company would do something like that. So that's awesome. I definitely need to collaborate with the organization you're talking about.
Yeah, for sure. I'll hook you up. They've grown so much in the past 13 years. They started off with a handful of elderly that they were taking care of to now close to 200 that they just literally just keep track of and in touch of, and good people. They're actually, our episode comes out today. But so how you mentioned franchising, is that something that you're potentially planning on doing, or what kind of vision do you have for your business in the next 5-10 years?
Yeah, I'm absolutely planning on doing that. We've been working on our branding, getting a solid brand that's going to pretty much be able to go into any market and hopefully dominate. But yeah, it's something I kind of got started with when I was working for that other company, the Window Gang.
So you kind of had an idea of somewhat how it worked already, or?
Yeah, so I got the privilege of listening to the owner franchisee complain about the franchise a lot. So, a lot of good support in the initial startup, maybe the first year or two. But then not consistently innovating and adding value to where, you know, the fees and things that he was paying, he felt good about paying. So I'm kind of a fixer, problem solver kind of person. Mm-hmm. So hearing all this, I was like, I wonder what a franchise that people would be happy to be a part of, what would that look like? Mm-hmm. What kind of benefits would I need? What kind of support? So I just started, you know, once I started thinking about starting my own company, I was like, well, you can make a franchise, but a good one. Mm-hmm. You know, one that is not greedy or one that's not just out to get the royalties, but creates a community and consistently adds value year after year beyond the initial startup, you know, innovates. And so that kind of became my dream. And then, you know, unfortunately, I let some people kind of talk me out of my dream. You know, I let them, you know, I listened to, oh, it's too hard. It's too expensive. You know, it's like, so it's like, okay, well, maybe I'll just do multi-locations and, you know, we'll own them all and things like that and have GMs to run them. And then within the past year or two, I was like, no, you know, that was my dream. That is what I want to do. And I'm doing it. Yeah. So starting to get the ball rolling, just trying to connect with a lot of people in the franchise space.
Kind of learning
Do you
already have like a playbook for your business already set up?
We do. It's not as complete as it needs to be. Like we have a lot of systems and processes, but it's crazy the amount of systems and processes you need, you know, in order to like have that business in a box, right? For sure. So pretty much everything the business needs, you have to have a way of doing it, and you have to have gone through and experimented and tested, like, and found the best way of doing it. So we're still in the process of really developing San Antonio as that franchise prototype, and then getting all those systems documented and trained and followed by everybody. And then once we have that down, hopefully we'll be able to just replicate and drop them into different markets. So,
how many employees do y'all have?
We have about 18 right now, counting me.
Yeah. Are you still doing the actual work, or are you doing mostly business development?
Yeah. So my main role is commercial sales within the organization right now. Really trying to grow that. Like we've done some awesome commercial projects, quite a few of them, but we're still primarily residential. And so we're wanting to kind of balance out the revenue to where, you know, we have basically more commercial projects lined up throughout the year. So
that's the bigger ticket item, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's like in my business, you know, people, you were asking me earlier, like, how's business? It's busy, but it's not like the sales aren't there. And I think it's for a lot of people, I mean, our sales are down this year, but we still got work, but a lot of it's smaller jobs. Yeah. And so one of our big ticket, you know, we do a lot of wood floors, and flooring's always been our big ticket item. And a lot of our clients or some of our clients are custom home builders, and some of that business has kind of tapered off a little bit. But where that customer base, I need to grow more so I can get those bigger ticket items. Because I'll get a wood flooring job for $50,000, or like 5 carpet jobs for $15,000 total. Right. You know, so you're busy over here, but it's like the dollars aren't the same. So I need to like grow this side of the business more, kind of build those relationships with those, you know, custom home builders, or, you know, like to your point, even commercial contractors. Because I've been focusing a lot on a lot of the realtors on the back this past 6 months, which is good. I mean, there are always good connections and referral partners. But this back end of this year, I'm going to try to focus more on building the builder market. Yeah, those definitely help keep the schedule full. Yeah, you know, like, and keep your guys busy. Yeah, because like, you know, a good commercial project for us, you know, might be $5,000 to $10,000. You know, whereas residential average maybe 800 or 900. You know what I mean? So, I mean, you can get one of those jobs. You'd have to get maybe 6 or 7 residential jobs to equal out to that one. So if you can just line those up, you know, you keep your crews working steady, consistent, you know, they're making good money, company's making good money, everybody's happy, win-win. So, you know, San Antonio's the relationship town, what I've been hearing. So it's like people aren't necessarily just going into Google for those projects. So building those relationships, you know, with property managers, building owners, or just other trades that can kind of help us get our foot in the door. Property managers are good referral partner for you?
Oh, totally. Yeah. Commercial property managers. So just building those relationships and really just, it's about doing good work, you know, about once you're in with them, making sure you take care of them, making sure that, you know, they say jump, you say how high.
No, I mean, you want to be that go-to guy that they know they can count on. Yeah, and that's so
dependable.
Important.
Absolutely.
Some of the biggest accounts that I have now, I got just because I got them out of a bind, and I was kind of in the peripheral, like I was in their radar. I was like their second, third go-to guy, but I'd always kind of like just, you know, follow up, call them, and you know, hey, we're here if you need help, and then you know. Sure enough, you know, hey, can you get us out of this bind? Sure. You know, it's not like we don't specialize in getting people out of binds, but, you know, if we can be a savior for now and then now give us opportunities. And sure enough, man, they're like, hey, man, these guys follow through. They do what they say.
So one of my best commercial clients, we actually bid on her building and we lost it. We lost the bid and, you know, this other company came in a lot lower. And we don't normally do this, but we're like, you know what? I was like, check their insurance certificate because sometimes people will get a policy, you know, get the certificate, print off a bunch of them, and then cancel the policy.
Oh wow!
So they didn't have her listed as a certificate holder at the bottom. So we're like, you know, you just might want to check. So about I don't know, a couple days later, she calls us back and she's like, "You're not going to believe this. Like that policy was not in effect."
Wow!
So you guys have the job. And that turned into, you know, taking care of her building twice a year, doing a parking garage for her. Then they developed another building that we took care of. So, and a shopping center that we take care of. So it's like all this came from, you know, just someone trying to be shady, you know, lack of integrity.
It's crazy how that's so prevalent out there, man. And it's a sign of, and it's nothing new, but people are sometimes desperate and they'll just do whatever. But it always, it kind of infuriates me sometimes. Going back to the elderly, I've had many elderly customers that have been fearful of you know, people taking advantage of them. And man, those are the clients that I always bend over backwards for. I was like, we're going to take care of you, you know, because it's such an unfortunate thing that they do get taken advantage of. And you know, people are leery sometimes of putting down payments and whatnot, and because they just fly by night guys, they just run with it. Now, I think the benefit with social media and the benefit of like online platforms like Google, now that people can see your reviews,
they get a lot of social proof.
It's like you do a bad job, people are going to know that you did a bad job.
Yes. Sometimes even if you didn't do a bad job.
Yeah. But I think there's some credibility you start building over time.
For sure.
And I think, well, for us, we've been pushing Google. We used to be a part of Angie's List and a few other platforms. And then Angie's List kind of changed their whole algorithm. They got bought out. Now it's Angie. So we just like kind of, you know, went away from that. But we used to get old school referrals. People would write us letters, and it's funny, dude. In fact, we're doing a job today. The customer that we're doing today, he actually told me, he's like, "Can I get this a couple of weeks ago before I closed the job?" He's like, "Can I get 3 references from you?" I was like, "Yeah." I was like, "Just FYI, if you want to look at Google." No, but I want to be able to talk to you. Oh yeah, no worries. So I emailed him the names and phone numbers to some recent clients. Oh, he goes, "No, but from 12 to 18 months ago." So okay, so there I go back.
Very specific.
And then a couple of days later, he comes into my shop and he's like, "Hey, man, they all said some good stuff about you." I was like, "Thank goodness." But some people, and he's actually an elderly customer, but some people just want to hear it too, right? And maybe because they're leery of the online platforms,
they've been burned. So
for sure. But that's a benefit now of where we're at with social media, with the online platforms, because it's kind of hard to hide who you are.
Yeah,
you're
all your business is put out there on Front Street.
Well, and going back to integrity and you know, people, the real you's going to come out eventually. And it's even like with this platform, I try to be open and transparent. I try not to get too political about things, or I just, you know, try to talk about whatever. But you have to kind of tiptoe sometimes with certain things because it's the way it is in this culture nowadays. Yeah. And And as much as I've been trying to do more of the social media lately, the videos, it's interesting because I don't pay attention as much to, I know it's out there, but I just kind of just do it, but then circle back to a customer, 2 days ago. It's like, hey man, I've been kind of seeing what you've been doing and, like to get a price on this and this and that. I saw some videos like, okay, cool. And then I was like, okay, well, that's good. And it's like, I've been following you on your Facebook. I was like, oh shit, it's like, don't say anything bad. Don't go back too far. Don't go back to before 2020. But for the longest time too, I was like, real private too. I hate to I've always been a real private person for the most part. But then in business, you have to you
got to put yourself out there.
Put yourself out there, man. Yeah. That's the risk because you have your business, like you're the face of that business, but like, well, then who are you too on the personal side, right? People want to know who you are because what you don't want to be is somewhat two-faced in the sense, right? Like, right.
You want to be the same.
Yeah. So like this guy looks like he's got his, business together or whatever. But, oh, wait, this guy, what is he doing over here? So they have to sync up and, which I am who I am. And I feel that I've been as transparent and honest as I am, as I've always been. But there's a plus to that and there's a negative to that when it comes to the social media because, you mess up and you say the wrong thing. Of course, it can always come back to haunt you. But I mean, that's just the risk you take, and that's part of it.
Yeah. I think, it's important to have integrity in all areas. And that's, it's something that I haven't always done. I thought I could be kind of one way in my personal life and, it wouldn't affect the business and just, going through that process of, realizing that, you can't compartmentalize like that. Like the way you are, the way you do one thing is the way you do anything, right? Have you heard that saying? So just really learning like to be the same person regardless of the situation.
The challenge I have when it comes to faith for me is, I try to be transparent. I'm a believer of Christ, and I, very faithful when it comes to that. But it's just kind of I'm not a very vocal person when it comes to that. Like I don't like beat people over the head when it comes to the Bible. Yeah, that's just not me. But
But at the same time, not hiding who you are, because that is your identity.
Well, because I don't know if I shared this story before, but one of my friends who I've hung out with for 4 or 5 years, we were playing. Well, I don't want to say too much detail. I don't want to. but basically, the question was like, he basically told me this. He goes, "I didn't know you were a Christian," and then I was like, "What?" Like,
kind of took you back a little bit.
I was like, well, what does that mean? And then not going into too much detail, but then I found that basically he's not a believer. So maybe the definition of a Christian is different to him than it is to me. So he goes, I go, what do you think I am then? He goes, well, I think you're a good husband. And I'm like, okay, well, that's a good thing, I guess, right? But it turned into a thing where I kind of started thinking to myself is like, well, what am I portraying, outwardly to him or maybe to this other group that, I just want people to see you for who you are. Like, man, this guy's a good dude. Whatever you're drinking, I want to try that or whatever. What is it? Is it
coffee?
Is it the Holy Spirit or or is it coffee? Whatever. Mushroom tea for me today.
Oh,
but
okay.
You don't want to act differently in front of different people is the biggest thing, right? You want to be yourself.
Be yourself,
and transparent. And when it comes to the faith, sometimes I struggle with that because it's like some people don't want to hear it. And it's like, okay, well, I'm not going to like beat people in the head over, my faith. But sometimes it's not the right place either, right? Especially when you're in business sometimes as well. But what I started doing more recently this year is, I like to play Christian music in my showroom because that'll tell people who you are. Walk in, it's like, okay, cool. I don't think that's a turnoff, but interestingly enough, I do get a lot of people say, oh, and they're like actually singing the songs. It's like, okay, cool, and I mix it up. Don't get me wrong. It's not like it's always there but I'll also put, country, then people get turned off, they walk out. But it's just, I want to be able to just say, hey, man, this is who I am. And that's really what it comes down to.
Exactly. Yeah, totally. Like if you pray before you eat, when you're on your own, if you're having a meeting with someone and you're having a lunch meeting, like, do you not pray because that other person's there? Or you say, hey, I usually pray before I eat. Would that offend you?
Yeah.
Nobody's going to say yes.
Yeah.
I mean, if they do, then I don't know. I don't know what to say about that. But I've never, anytime I've done that, just kind of put that out there, I've always got a pretty positive reaction. Or one thing I'll do is like I'll if we're having a lunch meal or something, I'll say, hey, are you a person of faith? And they're like, yeah. I was like, hey, would you mind if we pray before we eat and just thank God for, provision? They're like, oh yeah, that would be awesome. Like, I think we have this idea that it's like this negative thing. And like, what I found is like probably 9 times out of 10, it's like they appreciate it, even if they're not a believer,
right? But
they respect the fact that you are being the same person, in with them that you are in the rest of your life. So
I think the challenge though is to be not afraid to be who you are, right? Yeah. Like you said, do you mind if I pray over our meal? Yeah. Because that can open up opportunities. You're not hiding it. I think.
I mean, obviously, be respectful. Sure, of other beliefs or not beliefs. For sure.
But that's it right there, man. It's just the respect part of it. Because for me, that's the biggest thing, man. I love all walks of life. Yeah. And I respect everyone's beliefs, and I ain't gonna be the first one to judge anybody. Right. I'm gonna just focus on what I can control. As far as who I am, who I can be with my family, how I can lead them, and who I can encourage. But in no way am I going to be judging you for having a different belief. That's not my.
That's not your job.
It's not my job, man.
It's not our role.
And I think we need to have that mindset for everyone, right? To reciprocate that respect. That's the hard part. That's the challenge, I think, in our culture right now, which is why a lot of Christians tend to be more quiet now as opposed to just being who they are. Yeah,
as a society, like we need to learn to be able to disagree without being disagreeable.
Right.
So
that's the ongoing challenge. And
yes, especially this year, right? Especially during the election season and all that.
I get it. I have a few group texts that I'm on, and sometimes, and we all love each other on these groups, some of these friends that I'm in, but sure enough, man, we got people on both sides of the aisle when it comes to politics or whatever, faith even sometimes. But we just love to go in there and start triggering each other. And it becomes like this thing for like 20 minutes where we're like everyone's back and forth. But then we kind of like joke about it and then we
move on.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard. But the hard part is, and I'm guilty of it because some of us are just so rigid in our beliefs, right? And we're like, oh, what? You believe that? That they're the same way as you are. I'm not any better in some cases, and I want to stand by my truths and I want to learn about yours as well, but, and be respectful back to that. But it's just, it's interesting because, there's so many hot topics right now and in social media, man, it's just like, it's just kerosene. It's like, fire. It's like, and I'll tell my wife some things about whatever I see sometimes on whatever. And she's like, well, you're probably just seeing all the stuff that's triggering you. And like, just like the other guy over here is seeing all the stuff that's triggering him about you and vice versa. I was like, well, you're probably right. So I need to put this phone down sometimes. Yeah. But that's navigating through that, man. That's a pain. That's where.
Have you ever seen on social media where, you put something and then someone's like, you know what? You're right. I changed my mind about that issue.
No, never. My kids sometimes will. It's interesting kind of getting them engaged more in politics now because they're older and kind of the point of views and stuff. And the challenge for them, man, is like with they're in college. My oldest one's got a year left, but I mean it's the way colleges now are. There's no doubt there's some indoctrination going on, and I don't even know if that's triggering that word, but it's just hard to navigate through that. But thankfully, they're able to kind of see through that and kind of just get past that. And I mean, like my son's girlfriend was taking a class, and I think it was like psychology, or I don't know what it was, but she was like, professor was a certain, party line, and if you didn't agree with your opinions, it's like with his, if they weren't aligning, you were getting bad grades.
Oh my goodness.
And there was like, so she actually kind of like had to manipulate him in a sense just to get good grades. Like, what the heck are we doing here? It's like, that's not right. It's like we're there to learn and just try to kind of better ourselves. But it's just tough. It's tough for the younger generation too, man. It's like, we want to leave the world a better place for them, but it seems to get harder and harder. But that's where faith comes back into play, where it's like we go to church, we're like, hey man, let's kind of just focus on this other stuff here and just try to go back to being the people that we're.
Yeah, I think it's about kind of giving them a strong foundation, and then, when they get out on their own, they're going to be exposed to a lot of different stuff. Yeah. But then it's like, usually they'll come back around, because they have that foundation and they see the fruits of, the way of, I guess, the way they were raised, and the fruit of that. And hopefully that's going to cause them to, stay strong in whatever faith they, grew up in and things. But I think there's definitely there's a period where, kind of, they have to make it their own. We can raise them a certain way, with certain principles, certain beliefs, but then they have to go through that process of really owning it and adopting those as their own. And I think that's something we've all experienced and gone through growing up, to where we really have those convictions. It's not just something our parents, or maybe we're doing to try to please our parents, but it's something we really have a strong conviction about personally, to where we adopt those principles as our own.
I think at an early age, you want to see kind of the example that they're setting for you. That's part of it as well. And it's part of our responsibility to train them as they're young, give them the tools to learn and then to be able to make their own decisions, as opposed to just like being strict or rigid and saying, don't do this, don't do that. And they're like, what, why?
Well, it's really about the relationship. Once you have the relationship, because as they get older, it changes from, well, do this because I said so, to where you really have to have influence, over their decisions. I heard an analogy recently. It's like when there's a toddler and you're telling them, hey, you don't go over there. Well, if they go over there, I mean, you pick them up and you bring them back to where they're supposed to be, right? When they're teenagers, you can't necessarily do that. You can't just pick them up and put them back, So, that's where that relationship that you build with them as they're growing up, you want them to be able to come to you when they encounter those issues, or when they're wrestling with something, and be like, what do you think about this? Just to have that openness, that communication. So I think it's real important, like you said, not to just be rigid rules like my way or the highway. It's like, hey, let's talk about this. Let's think about it. And because the world is going to influence them. For sure. They're getting bombarded with messages every day, from whether it be from social media, YouTube, school, college, whatever. It's like you want to be one of the voices that's that they're listening to. Right. You want to be hopefully the main voice. Right. But that's really born out of the relationship that you foster and cultivate with them as they're growing up. Where they know they can come to you with, hard stuff, and you're not going to freak out on them and, go crazy.
When you do your family time at the Y, is it all your family going, all your kids?
Typically, yeah. It's going to be the whole family. Yeah, we made it mandatory. That is one thing that we made mandatory, but we don't force them to work out. Yeah. We force them to go with us.
How many boys did you say you have?
2 boys, 3 girls.
Do you see them being, business owners down the road, or maybe doing?
We'll see. We'll see.
Some of my kids, you can see the personalities. I definitely
see some entrepreneurial spirit in some of them. Yeah.
What would you advise them right now? Not to do it, or to do it?
Just to really just, I guess, seek, God's wisdom. Mm-hmm. And if it's something that he's called them to do it with all of their heart, but not to feel like they have to, not just because, dad had a business that, they need to. So I want them each to kind of chart their own course and follow God's direction.
Awesome.
And I think if they do that, they can't lose.
That's awesome, brother. Appreciate it, man. You have actually enlightened me today with a lot of what you told me. The family thing dynamic for me is so important, and just having that spirit about being just the head of the family, just kind of being the voice, just being someone that they can look at. That's for sure what you have with your family. Did you have parents that were in business at all?
No, but I had my granddad and my uncles. They ran for the longest time. It was called Universal Office Products. It was a office furniture and store, and they would do all kinds of office products and toners, ink cartridges, things like that. And then it changed the name to Office Supply America. It was off of 410 and Industrial, just inside Loop 410 and Bandera Road. So yeah, there's definitely some entrepreneurial in my.
Did you work for them at all, or no? Or just?
I helped out a few times. I didn't really work for them.
Did you learn anything from them? So you didn't really get a lot of experience from them. They just happened to be entrepreneurs.
Yeah, I would say that more so. Yeah. My dad was the only one not in the family business, so they always said he was the lucky one.
Well, that's the thing, though. It's like not everybody's kind of wired for it. Is my point, because like you jumped into it because you saw, a need potentially, or maybe an opportunity. But at least your kids have someone that they can model after, which is cool. That you can kind of give them some sort of insight on. Because my kids, I think all my three boys could be entrepreneurs. To be honest with you. Like I was telling you, my oldest son is doing a side hustle right now, making some cash. All of them are pretty good about hustling, and the good way hustling. But it's kind of cool because you see them kind of evolve and mature. And my thing with them is, I want them to be happy about whatever they decide to do in their life, and just be passionate about it, and be willing to wake up every day to do it again.
Yeah, I wanted to touch on something you said about the kind of the spiritual leadership, and that's something I don't want to act like that's something that I've done a great job with throughout the years. I would say that's something that I am within the past year or two getting better at. But that's where I dropped the ball a lot throughout the years, was just not carving out that time for, whether it's reading scripture or, of course we'd pray before meals and things like that. But my wife really, really wanted me to be the spiritual leader of the family. And it's, with business, you're like, so tired or just stressed, or just to be able to kind of enter into that space and really take the lead and kind of break up the, hey, let's just kind of veg out after a long day, scroll social media or whatever. But that's something that I've really tried to emphasize the past, year, particularly the past couple of months, is just, making sure that we're reading scripture together as a family most nights, and that even when it seems like the kids aren't paying attention, even when it's a struggle, to get them to be still long enough to listen, or sometimes it feels like more of a frustration. It's like, hey, I'm trying to read here, like you guys keep, picking on each other or whatever. It's like, but just throughout consistency again, I'm starting to see, one thing I'll do, we'll read a chapter and then I'll kind of ask them some questions, or like, hey, fill in the blank, what, and sometimes it's the ones that I didn't feel like were listening, that they got the answer or whatever. So it's like that kind of like train up a child in the way they should go. When they're old, they will not depart from it. It's giving them that foundation. So I encourage all.
You do this daily, or?
Not daily. I try. I mean, the most, I would say maybe 3 to 4 times a week is kind of what we're at right now. But
I think you're describing every father out there, man. I mean,
it's a struggle
for sure, dude.
It's a struggle.
going back to the, trying to put a mask on what you're doing. We have so many spinning plates that we're trying to keep up that, the moment we try to, put our attention over here, we're making sure this doesn't fall here. We don't let go of that. And sometimes you just have to let the plate shatter and just
sometimes
let it go.
As men, we can be so passive and just take the path of least resistance.
That's for sure.
And then
100%. Man.
And then unfortunately, then that responsibility falls on our wives because they want, our Christian wives, they want the kids to have that spiritual foundation. They want to be in church. They want to be, having that time with God. And, if we're passive and just, taking the path of least resistance, then we're just putting an extra weight on them to have to take up that responsibility. So I think trying to be active and proactive and, lead, is something that, men struggle with. Yeah. And it's, we can take the path of least resistance. Like, oh, okay, she's got it. She's doing it. I'm just going to sit back. That's not the way, I don't believe that's the way that God called us to be as men. He called us to be leaders.
Are you in a Bible study or any men's group?
So we have, in our church, we go to Alamo Community Church in Alamo Ranch, and we have community groups, which is basically like groups of families that meet outside the church, and we do fellowship, Bible study, share meals. So we meet with a group of families every other week in our home.
Awesome.
So yeah, we have that.
That's good. I think everybody needs that, man.
We need that community.
You need to get connected. The more circles you can connect together, the better. It'll better serve all of us. So
absolutely, yeah. We're not meant to live in isolation for sure.
Absolutely not. Yeah. So. And just going back to work, I mean, the power of networking, it's good with business, but it's even better when you're in a community, a networking group of faith-based people, man. So really awesome. Larry, I appreciate you, man.
Appreciate you.
Have you done one of these before, or podcast yet? Or?
I've done a few.
Yeah.
I've done a few.
Yeah. So it's fun to do, like I said, and still kind of figuring stuff out. But
I enjoyed it.
Yeah, man.
That was great.
I appreciate you. Thanks for sharing. And whenever anybody asks me for a exterior cleaning specialist, I will make sure that I say I know Larry Kreisel from the Gleam Team. I know a guy.
Yeah.
Good job.
I know a guy.
Yes, sir. Thank you, man.
Thank you.